Oh, also, I bet they would be really good dipped in labneh.
I mean, you're not wrong. Okay,
Yeah.
so you just
I'm gonna
you
try
just
that.
you just entered the bonus round and you nailed it.
Bonus rounds. Yes. And now I have an idea for a snack later.
Welcome back to Sprung on Food, an interview-based show where the overall topic of conversation is food. I'm your host, Kae Sprung. This season, I'm talking to food content creators, and my next guest is Emilia D'Albero, also known as Punk Rock Parmigiano. Let's get into the show. Emilia is a cheesemonger and educator with 10 years of experience working in cheese, culinary education, catering, and event management. Emilia has worked behind some of New York City's largest and most reputable cheese counters and teaches cheese and pairing classes. She's currently the sales and marketing manager of Formaticum, the director of programming for the Barnyard Collective, volunteers with the Cheese Culture Coalition, and is a Cheesemonger Invitational champion. Emilia, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm very excited that you're here. And my goodness, I don't know if I've ever gotten the opportunity to chat with somebody as accredited and skilled as you are in the world of cheese. So I feel like I'm going to be leaving this with a wealth of knowledge, and I'm very excited about that. If you were to only have one cheese for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I wanna say it's a hard question, but it's actually not. I would definitely go with Parmigiano Reggiano.
Okay.
It's my favorite cheese. I think it's, earned its title as the king of cheese, and there are so many different varieties of it. So versatile, you can use it in cooking, you can eat it as a table cheese. It's just it's just one of the best. I could eat
Ah,
it every day, and in fact, I
do you?
usually
Ah, fantastic. And
Yeah.
so that even speaks more volumes that you've not tired of it yet.
No,
Ah,
no.
is there one in particular that you could really do without? Like one that's just like not I know you love cheese, but like is there one that you're just like hard pass?
Well, I think every cheese has its place, even things like American slices. I don't particularly love the really stinky, like, runny cheeses like Epoisses. I know
Oh.
some people that really love them, but I'll take them or leave them.
Okay, perfect. We're leaving that out. Parmigiano Reggiano is
Yeah.
here to stay. Speaking of that, you do have this video that captivated me of you cracking into a wheel of that. I'm curious, how difficult is that, and how much does a wheel of cheese like that weigh?
That's a great question. So there are a lot of different producers of Parmigiano Reggiano. I think I like to call it Big Parma has done such a good job marketing the cheese that a lot of people think that it comes from one particular producer and all of it is exactly the same. But there are a lot of different producers of this cheese, and each one of those cheeses is very different in flavor, but also in weight. Something I've had some wheels that I have cracked that were like 79, 80 something pounds. The one in that video, if it was the most recent one, was over 100. Yes.
Over
So
100
that
pounds.
particular producer, his name is Giorgio Crivero. He's what we call an affineur or a cheese ager, which means that he doesn't make the cheese himself, but he does buy the younger wheels and age them in his facilities, which has a huge impact on the texture and the flavor. And the farm that he buys his wheels from, there's something about the milk composition of their herd of cows that yields more cheese per gallon of milk. So his wheels are much heftier.
Oh, my yeah, 100 pounds, I would say is
Yeah.
pretty hefty. How can some I mean, I don't wanna disparage, your expertise in work, but can an average person kind of approach that and be able to do it? Or is there a very specific technique to doing something like that?
There's definitely a technique, but it's pretty easy to learn if you pay attention to detail. It's something that is a big deal as a cheesemonger, like a little baby cheesemonger when you crack your first parm wheel. Yeah, so it's a regulated product. So there's a government group called a consortium that regulates the production and sale and marketing of that product. So every person, every producer of Parmigiano Reggiano has to follow a set of very strict guidelines. And the reasoning for that is that it guarantees quality, it guarantees authenticity. So as a consumer of a name protected product, a protected designation of origin PDO product, you know that you're going to get a high quality product every single time. And one of the requirements for that particular PDO, or again, protected designation of origin, is the size of the wheel. So all Parmigiano Reggiano is the same size.
Oh, okay. So we're
I
just
mean,
talking
obviously
about.
the weight varies a little bit, but the molds are all the same. It's always
Gotcha.
going to be that like 80 to 100 pound kind of rounded sides.
Ah, okay. So baby cheesemonger just meant the baby as a person, the wheel
Yes.
stays the
Yeah,
same
like a
size.
new cheesemonger.
They're brand new to the
Yeah.
game, but that
Yeah.
that thing is still as big as it is.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a rite of passage for a new cheesemonger to crack their first wheel of parm.
ah, I
Yep.
love that.
And it does take practice. The first time you crack a wheel like that, you're using a lot of muscles, like, behind your shoulders and in your back that you don't normally use, so you will be sore the day after you open your first wheel,
Oh,
but you eventually get used to it, and you kind of for me, I am not a weightlifter, I'm not an athlete of any kind, so it took me about a year to kind of, like, work up to being able to carry those wheels around by myself, and now I can haul them around no problem and pick them up, put them on tables, flip
ugh,
them around. It's like
spin
it's
it on your
fun.
finger like a Harlem Globetrotter.
Man,
Effort.
I wish. That should
Well,
be the next thing I try.
yes, we're moving up little benchmarks. You have
Yeah.
to, you have to crawl before you run. So
Yeah.
we'll get you there. Who knows? That may be a whole new side gig. I don't like a team
Yeah.
of Parmigiano Reggiano spinners on their. I don't know. I mean, just an idea, but or
You have to have a very strong finger.
well, okay. But the whole thing seemed so impressive to me. Just the weight of it itself, and then the skill of
Mhm.
being able to crack that open was just incredible to see. So, uh, thank you for putting that out there.
I love filming stuff like that because people don't know that that's a big part of cheesemongering of the job. People think it's just like, I'm going to eat cheese and I'm going to pair cheese with wine and beer and things like that, which yeah, sure, that's a big part of it, but the majority of cheesemongering, at least in a grocery store setting, is manual labor and cleaning.
Well, so we are getting into the terminology of things, and there may be some people who are not familiar with the term cheesemonger and know exactly what it is or what it means. So how would you best define it?
Sure. So a cheesemonger is a person who specializes in the sale of butter, cheese, and other dairy products, to put it very simply.
Yes, and so you said that it also can kind of vary in the specialty or what you might do. So some people might not realize that certain elements are involved in the title itself. They just think of it
Mhm.
as one thing. Are there other facets of it that
Yeah,
might
for
not be
sure.
commonly known to other people?
Yeah, definitely a lot of cleaning. Um,
Cleaning. What do you
yeah,
mean?
so we a lot of I've cheesemongered pretty exclusively in specialty grocery stores, and we are regulated by the Department of Health and Department of Agriculture. So there are a lot of sanitation standards that we have to follow that need to be kept up every single day. So it's not something as simple as you're just like wiping the counters down. It's a lot of, you're pulling out the low boys and you're making sure that the fans are clean back there so that the fridges can operate at the proper temperatures. Geez, there's a lot of like really weird little nitty-gritty cleaning things that are honestly like kind of gross that keep the department running smoothly and like ready for an inspection at any time. And it also keeps things clean and healthy for the cheeses to make sure that you are selling a properly sanitized product.
Yes, it might be the less glamorous aspects
Yeah,
of it, but it's the part that keeps the public feeling, safe and
safe. Exactly.
actually being,
It does
safe.
keep it safe, for
Yes.
sure. You have
So,
to keep things at proper temperatures, at proper humidity, you have to make sure that your workspace is sanitized, that you are not cross-contaminating different cheese styles, because different cheese styles have different molds on them. You're
oh,
packing out fruits and nuts, you have to make sure everything is sanitized after that, so you're not cross-contaminating with allergens. It's pretty intense.
there's so much to know. So, okay, you mentioned, different types of molds.
Mhm.
Molds on cheese, can we
Yeah.
can we tap into that?
Yeah, I would
What's the
love to
deal
talk about
what's the deal
molds.
with that? And
So
how are there different I didn't know about different I'm a total layperson. I was like, "Molds for cheese, one type. No, no, apparently I am sorely mistaken."
yeah, yeah. So cheese is a fermented product, which means there's a lot of bacteria and microflora that are alive within it that keep it delicious and keep it healthy. And different styles of cheese use different cultures and different types of molds and yeasts to create their unique flavor, unique appearance, a different type of rind. So something like a brie has what we call a bloomy rind. And that's that like white, sometimes slightly gray, very fluffy, like outer part of the cheese. So the outer part of the cheese that you see before the wheel is open is called the rind, and then that inner part, the softer part, is called the paste. There's a little bit of cheese
Ah,
anatomy.
the paste.
Uh,
I mean, that
yes.
it makes, but both of those things make sense in my mind's eye. So
Yeah,
far, I'm with you. This is great. Okay,
great.
I'm having fun. Yes.
Yeah. So something like a brie is a bloomy rind, and it uses a specific type of culture to create that specific rind. Something like, let's say, taleggio or a poisse that has that kind of like stinky, kind of slimy orange rind. That's what we call a washed rind, and that uses a completely different culture to create that rind, which also has a different flavor. So those are going to be very like funky, kind of like people say they smell like feet, versus something like a brie where that rind is going to taste more like mushroomy, but like earthy. We get from brie style cheeses, we get a lot of like cooked brassica flavors, cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, that kind of thing. So the cultures that we use to make these cheeses have a profound impact on the flavor of the cheese.
This is really incredible.
Yeah.
When is your TED Talk? Because I find it fascinating. As somebody who is not directly, I'm on in the food world. I'm on the pastry side of things, and not to say that there
That's
is
very
not a
cool.
crossover with cheese. There certainly
No,
is. In fact,
definitely.
that is dessert on many menus.
Yeah.
But I will say, I have not had the privilege of taking any cheese education courses or really learning about it. So just even these kind of conversations are so enjoyable to me
Mhm.
because I love learning and I love learning about food. And already I feel like I have a vocabulary that I did not have just
Yeah.
a few moments ago. So, yes, I can imagine that there would be so many people out there who are not involved in food at all that would be
Yeah.
so fascinated by this because if you're a consumer of cheese, you're probably interested, I would
Right.
think.
And
Oh,
having this knowledge helps you be like a more informed consumer, and it helps you figure out your preferences and your likes and dislikes. And the mold conversation is one that I have all the time. People are like, there's mold on my cheese. There's mold in blue cheese. Is it safe? And absolutely, yes, it is safe. They wouldn't be using it to make cheese if it weren't.
oh, right, well, yes,
Yeah.
we should hope so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that there are those cheeses that we buy and we see it in there. Now, let's say, for
Mhm.
instance, and I guess this may tie more so into, well, you as a whole, but your current position at Formaticum, where we are kind of learning on how to preserve and store and best practices of cheese in that capacity. But if you are buying a cheese that's not having mold on it yet,
Mhm.
and then you keep it in wherever you're keeping it, and then hopefully in the fridge, and then eventually you see some mold on there, toss it, or is that normal? I mean, I know what I would do, but like I have
I
to ask
love
the
this
professional.
question.
Okay.
I love this question
Okay.
because there was a video that went around, I don't know, maybe last year that caused like a huge uproar in
Oh,
the cheese and I guess microbiology community that I love to talk about.
okay.
So, first of all, you go into a store, and if you're going into a grocery store that has a big cheese display, most of that is going to be plastic wrapped,
Okay.
which is not the ideal situation, but not everyone has access to a cut to order cheese shop, and that's okay. So you go and you're looking for your cheese, everything is in plastic wrap. What you want to look for is a clean face on that cheese. You do not want to see any visible mold on the face of the cheese, which means the visible part of the paste. A little bit of mold on the rind, depending on the style of cheese, totally okay. You also want to turn it over and look at the pack date. It's either going to have a pack date, a use by date, or both. If you can get a piece of cheese that was cut within the last day or two, you're golden. That's going to be your best bet there. When you take it home, the first thing that you should do is take it out of that plastic wrap. Plastic
Aha.
wrap and cheese are not friends. Plastic wrap is treated with plasticizers and chemicals so that it's completely non-porous. It does not allow oxygen exchange. It's going to suffocate your cheese. And that's why a lot of cheeses in plastic wrap will more quickly grow mold on the face. And it also transfers that plastic flavor onto the cheese, which is why sometimes, most of the time, cheese tastes like plastic if it has touched plastic. So my
My
current
mind is
position,
being blown right now. I'm just
yeah.
letting you know I'm very silent with my
Mhm.
mouth agape because whoa. Okay. All right. Keep rolling. Keep rolling.
Yeah. Unfortunately, plastic wrap is just kind of a necessary evil in a grocery store setting because, customers eat with their eyes first. They want to be able to see their cheese. They want to be able to pick out their piece, and that's totally fine. The company that I work for right now, Formaticum, we sell cheese storage solutions, and it's professional quality. Everything is imported from Europe. We have factories that we work with in France and Germany and Italy, and we have a cheese storage solution for every person for every need. And what our products do is preserves the flavor of cheese. We have cheese paper, professional cheese paper, and then we also have bags that are made out of professional cheese paper so that you don't have to learn how to wrap cheese if you don't want to. You could just put it in the bag, fold it over, and put it in your fridge, and it does the same thing.
Oh, I love
And
that because otherwise is it kind of the same skill as like wrapping a gift with wrapping
yeah,
paper where it looks so fabulous, but it's very intimidating also.
yeah. But imagine instead of a box, your gift is like the most fucked up shape you can ever see. Like
Right.
your gift is
Yes.
like a very long, thin triangle.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Return to sender. But if we know that there's cheese in there, I'll
Yeah,
keep it, but we'll use the
exactly.
bag format instead. That's very
Right.
clever to have that. I like that.
Yes. It makes it accessible for people who, either don't have the time to learn how to wrap or they don't have the physical ability to wrap, and it does the exact same job. It just makes it much easier for people, and the benefit of using professional cheese paper that is meant to store your cheese is that it is not treated with chemicals or plasticizers. It's not gonna transfer that plastic flavor onto your cheese. It's a porous material, so it allows your cheese to breathe. There's oxygen exchange that's happening there, and it also maintains the right humidity within the package. Because cheese is a living product. Cheese doesn't stop aging when you take it out of the cave. It's like I said, it's fermented. There's a lot of microbial activity that's happening in a piece of cheese. So you want to keep it happy, you want to keep it healthy. And if you are keeping it in a humid environment and you are allowing it to breathe, it is not going to get suffocated like it will in plastic wrap. It's going to delay the growth of mold on the face, mold that you don't want, and it also will keep it from drying out and cracking. So, what I like to tell people is that it's a great way to honor and respect the work of all of the people that put work into getting that cheese to you. If you're a farmer, if you are a cheesemaker, if you are a person who works for a distributor, customs broker, a cheesemonger, whoever it is in the chain, like they're putting a lot of work into making sure that that piece of cheese gets to you and storing it properly so that you can taste the flavor at its peak at all of the nuances that the cheesemaker intended. That's a great way to honor the work of those people.
Oh,
And it's super easy.
wow, this is very incredible. So if of course people should purchase those products
Mhm.
that of where you represent, but if they, let's say, go and they purchase in a store where there it is plastic wrapped and they don't have the ideal type of packaging that you talked about, are there any
Yeah.
other alternative best things that people can do outside of like remove the plastic, step
Yeah,
one?
definitely remove the plastic. And I always recommend like gently
Oh,
scraping the face of the cheese with a knife to get any of that like plastic flavor off of there.
that's
Like, off the record, as a non-Formaticum employee, if you don't have access to our products or any other cheese storage products that are on the market, wax paper or parchment paper will do the job, not as well as a professional product, but the main thing is making sure that there's airflow.
oh,
Yeah, and
this
so
well, it's so incredible because I think that for a lot of people, they they have the complete opposite. I won't project this on people as a whole, but I think a lot of people think the absolute opposite, right? They think, oh, wrap that sucker up in plastic real
Mhm.
tight
Yep.
to lock everything in so that it doesn't oxidize or whatever.
Mhm.
Opposite. Let her breathe.
Yeah.
Ah,
Let it breathe. Cheese is alive. You gotta let it breathe. You gotta keep it happy. And eventually, if you leave it in your fridge long enough, even in professional paper, you will see a little bit of mold growth on the face. And your question from before, I took a really long-winded route to get there.
No, 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 it was
But
full of golden gems and nuggets. Gems are not gold, but nuggets of gold
yeah.
and
Well,
gems. Oh, no, this was good. Okay, yes. And so then if they do find
so
some
if you
mold
do find mold,
eventually,
it's don't panic.
okay. Step
Don't
1, don't
panic.
panic. Okay.
It's totally fine. Cheese is supposed to grow mold. It's doing its job. It's just doing what it knows what to do. What it knows how to do. If it's a fresh cheese, if it's something like mozzarella, feta, those younger cheeses that have higher moisture content, if you see mold on that, I would throw that away. What we're
Aha.
talking about here is the density of a cheese and like the porosity of a cheese. And I think the issue that people had with the video about how to deal with a piece of cheese that has mold on it is that the person who made the video, who's actually a very good friend of mine, said that all you have to do is cut off a thin slice of the cheese where the mold is and throw that away and you can continue to eat the cheese. And there were a lot of people who were like, no, 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 if there's mold on it, oh, the spores are everywhere. So just because I like to fact check myself, I like to be able to give correct information all the time. I talked to a cheese specific microbiologist. I had a 1 hour conversation with a cheese specific microbiologist from a very well known American cheese company. And what they told me, and I'm not a scientist, disclaimer,
But
what
they
they
are.
told me is that aged cheeses, specifically like aged cheddars or Gruyere or something like that, they do not have the moisture content. Their moisture content is so low and their texture is so dense and non-porous that mold actually can't penetrate all the way through that cheese the way it can a younger cheese with higher moisture content. So and when she said just cut off like, a quarter inch, a half inch from the affected side, that's fine. You're removing, according to this microbiologist, you are removing all of that mold. You are fine to go ahead and eat it. That being said, even if you hadn't removed all of it, there's a good chance that it's not going to hurt you. You know, it's the mold comes from the cheese itself, which was made with safe molds. Again, not a scientist. Like I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a nutritionist, but the cheese industry is very open about the fact that cheese molds are generally safe to eat.
Oh,
They may not taste great, but
right. You don't wanna necessarily, like, have your cheese hanging out waiting for it to get all moldy to
yeah,
then start enjoying it,
yeah,
but knowing this now is, well, 1, very empowering, but 2, it's good to know these things also because it is contrary to, of course, other foods, right? Where if
yeah,
you've got a loaf of
yeah.
bread and you start seeing mold,
Bread,
like, you gotta throw that away. There's no
berries, things like
salvaging.
that.
Yes,
This advice is
produce.
strictly for aged cheese. It
Yes.
is not applicable to anything else.
But that's what we're here talking about,
Right.
cheese, your specialty, and I think
Yeah.
that that's important too because that people just they don't have this wealth of knowledge, sometimes, and they don't talk to, scientists about this to also fact
Yeah.
check and cross-reference, and so we take the knowledge, the elementary knowledge that we do have, which is mold on food, bad, and then
Mhm.
extrapolate that when in fact, this is one category where you can actually have this conversation about it and be like,
Mhm.
you know what? No, it's actually
It's fine.
okay. Rest
It's
assured, you don't have
normal.
to throw out all of your stuff. Just like take out
Yeah.
a little piece there, chuck it.
Wait till these people find out about blue cheese.
Oh, what do you mean?
I mean, there's that whole meme about like blue cheese has mold in it. Like, yes, it does.
Oh, yeah,
It's
like, what
meant
did
to.
what did they
Yeah.
think that it oh, I mean, have you ever heard people say, like, think that it was something different or
No, I
not
think
know?
people are just shocked to find out that it's intentional and edible and delicious.
I'm gonna
But
ask you an origin story question if this isn't putting you
yeah.
too much on the spot, but how did the intentional mold within cheese and then kind of spreading it for consumption, how did that even become a thing?
Great question.
Ok.
I have an origin story for you. May or may not be true,
Oh,
but
I'm down for a
the
story. Okay.
the tale that we tell about the origin of blue cheese is rooted in gorgonzola production, so an Italian blue cheese. And we like to say that there was a cheesemaker once who was making what was not meant to be a blue cheese. He milked his cows at night and then put that milk into whatever receptacle he was using to make the cheese. And he was about to milk the cows again and put more milk into the receptacle when he was distracted by a lover. And so he and his lover went and had a little fun. And in the morning, he came back to his cheese and wanted to, I guess, finish what he was doing or cover up his mistake. So he put more milk from the morning milking on top of the last night's milk. The milk from the night before had a chance to, I guess, acidify a little bit. And there was a lot of bacteria that was activated or bacteria that was in action already at that time. And so when he put that morning milking into what was essentially a vat at the time, he was trying to cover up his mistake. Not visible at the time that he was making the cheese. However, as the cheese was aging, that bacteria that was activated started to proliferate within the cheese. It was that blue mold bacteria. And that's what was, when he cracked open the wheel, that particular wheel, he was stunned to find blue veining within the cheese. But then, like a good adventurous person, he was like, I wonder what this weird thing tastes like. And turns out it was delicious. And so it was a mistake that became an iconic style, which a lot of, I'm thinking about it now, a lot of cheese origin stories started as mistakes.
Yeah, food in general. I
Yeah.
think I think about any food in general, and it blows my mind because I can't conceive how a person who had it's a new thing, it's never been done before, how you would even think to let's take I don't know, let's take a cookie for example, right? The very
Mhm.
first cookie. Like, how the hell did that happen? Somebody didn't know, hey, by mixing this, I'm going to get this.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know. There was no baseline for that before. So all of these things stem from iterations of what originated, I think, as a mistake, a
Yeah.
wonderful mistake, but then taking that and then riffing off of that or saying, oh, what happens if we add this? Or maybe by accident something else got added and it became better. So I think this as a whole is such an interesting topic because it is that mystery unlocked that's kind of like, well,
Yeah.
it was an accident, but it was a really great accident that happened. And also what a spicy story. But
Yeah.
ah, I love that. But and
Which
also how brave to then say, I think I'll try this.
I think I'll taste it. Yeah.
It could have gone the other way, right?
Could
Like
have
it
gone the other way. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
foresight.
And that it might be, a tall tale. It might be true, it might not be true. We'll never know, but it's certainly a fun it's a fun story. This is why I tell people to support artisan cheesemakers as much as they possibly can, because these are the people who are doing that experimentation, who are not making mistakes, but like maybe purposefully making changes just to see what happens. Like I know a cheesemaker who's experimenting with the hot sauce washed cheese right now,
Oh, what does
which
that
like
mean?
sounds insane. Like they're literally taking a wheel of cheese, like a little wheel of soft cheese, and like washing the rind in hot sauce just to see
Oh.
what happens.
Oh, and so we don't have an update
Yeah.
yet because they're
No, we don't
working
have
on
an
this
update
now.
yet. It just
Wow,
started.
stay tuned.
Yeah.
Oh,
But it's wild. It's wild to think about. And so when you have these like big industrial cheese producers where everything is being done by machine and everything is very sterile and like by the book, there's no creativity involved. And I like to say that cheese making is like the intersection of science and art with just a little bit of magic sprinkled in, because cheesemakers, they work really hard and they have to be incredibly smart and they have to know all of the details of the science in like within that cheesemaking process. But you also have to have a creative vision, right? You have to know what you want to make and you have to have the knowledge and skills to be able to make that thing. But there is just like something magical about watching liquid milk be turned into something so incredibly delicious.
oh. I mean, it all is food is such a science, and so I think that's
Mhm.
why I also particularly really enjoy these learning opportunities because I do love science and then just understanding how this works and the origin story, even the blue that was just Thank you.
Mhm.
That was
Yeah.
great. I mean, speaking of origin stories, you graduated with a degree in Italian studies. Did you think that
Yeah.
cheese was a part of also the future? Did that happen
No.
unexpectedly? How did you fall into becoming a cheesemonger?
By accident, which there's
Ah,
a
oh, an
joke in the
accident.
industry. There's a
Great.
joke in the industry that we always say, like, nobody very rarely people go out with the intention of becoming a cheesemonger, you just kind of, like, end up in cheese, which is I've only met, like, 1 or 2 people who, like, decided they wanted to be a cheesemonger and then went out and, got it, and all of those people had parents who were involved in the cheese industry, so it
Aha,
was
it was
not
in
by
their
chance.
blood already. I
Yeah, yeah.
understand.
So I graduated with a degree in Italian studies and then got a job as an events and education manager straight out of college working for an Italian cooking school. And so I was managing all of those classes. We were doing at least, 5 classes a week on everything from, cheese and wine pairings to hands-on pizza making to the cuisine of the Veneto or something like that. Just every type of educational Italian food event that you could possibly imagine. And the cheese ones were always my favorite.
Mm.
So when it came time for me to make a decision and say, gonna make a career change, what do I want to do next? I wanted to learn a craft. I wanted to learn how to work with my hands because at that point my only real skill was emailing, which is great.
Listen, that's a skill
I,
though, because I've come across
yeah,
many people who
who
have
can't email?
not
Yes.
become a pro at that yet. So yeah, good on you.
Yes. We should train more email mongers or whatever.
Oh, yes, let's make that a thing. Email mongers. I'm in.
But, yeah, so I decided that my next venture in my career was going to be learning how to, be a cheesemonger, but I was also a butcher for, a little while. I was doing both simultaneously. I wanted to learn how to do both, and while I did love butchery, and I learned a lot, and I know how to make sausage from scratch now, cheese won. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that more. I decided to pursue that as a career.
And what type of education and training does one need to go through, and how long could that potentially take?
So you don't need any sort of formal education to be a cheesemonger. You just have to, sell cheese behind a cheese counter or in
Aha.
a cheese shop or at a grocery store, something like that. There are certifications that you can get and there are courses that you can take. Like I'm a certified cheese professional, which is a certification that is awarded by the American Cheese Society. And for that, you need to prove that you have worked in the industry directly with cheese for a certain amount of time, certain amount of hours, and then you need to pass a written exam, like a timed written exam. So it's essentially the equivalent of like a level 1 sommelier exam for
That's
cheese.
exactly what I was thinking
Yeah.
about. Yes. Okay.
So I have that certification, but fun fact about cheese certifications in the United States is that Wisconsin is the only state to have a master cheesemaker program, which requires 10 years of cheesemaking experience and is one of only 2 programs like that, as far as I know, in the entire world.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
They found their niche. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Like any craft out there, the more time you spend with it and the more
Mhm.
work you do outside of the actual work to really refine those skills and
Yeah.
learn more, the better and stronger you will become at it. So
Yeah.
you could do baseline. And if you're happy with that,
If
okay.
you're
But if
happy
you
with that,
really
then
want,
that's fine.
yeah, but if you
Some
really
people
want
do
to,
the job for a paycheck, and that is totally fine.
right.
Like, we live in a capitalist society. Everybody needs to make money to live. And
Yes.
unfortunately, cheesemongers are very often underpaid for the quality of the work that they do and the amount of knowledge that we have. So, if you're watching this and you go to a cheesemonger regularly, please be very nice to them and tip them during the holidays.
I was about to say, tip your cheesemongers.
Tip your cheesemongers.
I hope they can accept tips or just like give them a wink and a smile if they're
Yeah,
not allowed to take that like government employees or something. Then
I had a regular at the shop I used to work at during COVID. He would bake banana bread, like whole loaves of banana bread, and bring them fresh out of the oven to us in the store as like
how's
a thank you for being there. Yeah,
that's so
it's,
sweet. How
you know,
beautiful.
same guy, loved him. One of my favorite customers. One time we were having a conversation about, I don't know, I think it was like an Aperol spritz or something like that. And I was like, I love different kinds of spritzes. It's my favorite. He like went across the street to the bookstore, bought a book on spritzes that he had that he liked and gave it to me. Like came back and gave it to me. And I was like, so sweet.
That's
So
so
sweet.
beautiful.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
an angel.
One of my favorite things about being a cheesemonger is the way that I get to connect with the community, because when people come to the counter and they want a specific cheese, I have to have a conversation with them. I have to ask them questions. I have to learn about their preferences, and very often they're just really nice people who don't know anything about cheese and are like intimidated because they're assuming that we're going to judge them for that. And
Mm.
it's like, no, 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 not at all. My job is to know about cheese. Your job is just to tell me what flavors you like, and I will make sure that you get what you want. And so I really, after working at the same counter for 3 years, I had cultivated some really beautiful relationships with people in the neighborhood, and they would send me pictures of the cheese plates that they made for family affairs, and they would invite me over for dinner and, have us cater their weddings and things like that. So it's as much about connection to other people as it is about the cheese itself for me.
I
That's the part of it that I really love.
I love that, and your passion on everything really just shines through because it's so nice to know too that such it can be such an approachable thing because I think to
Yeah.
your point that some people can get very intimidated about things and they may
Mhm.
see cheese specifically as something of such prestige and embarrassed if they don't know certain
Yeah.
elements or qualities and just
Yeah.
maybe avoid it or just go and pick something up and run away. And
Yeah.
so knowing that it can really just become very much so like a consultation and a
Yeah.
conversation and a little
Yep.
mini education session too, that it doesn't have to be scary. You might learn
Mhm.
something and you'll
It
probably
shouldn't
get
be
exactly
scary.
what you want, which is, I
Yeah.
think, the most important thing. You could, I don't know, maybe Google, like, I don't know, what's popular cheese that I should get for my cheese board and not really know.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not something that you like. So why would you spend nice money on something that
Yeah.
you're not going to be happy with? Like, do the conversation, do the
Yeah.
back and forth.
One of the things that I preach above all else is that cheese is for everyone. Cheese is for the people.
Cheese
And
is for the
and
people.
at its core, it's old milk. And it was invented by the working class as a way to preserve nutrients in liquid milk. And it, for some reason, has transitioned into being seen as some sort of, I don't know, fancy product that's only for like rich people to have dinner parties. And that's like super, super not true. Cheese is for everyone. It should be consumed by everyone. You don't have to have a specific type of palate. And I always say that if you're running a cheese counter and you don't have a variety of cheeses at a variety of price points so that everyone feels welcome, then you're
Mm.
doing it wrong. If you are actively excluding people from your cheese counter and your cheese selection based on how much money they have or how sophisticated their palate is, then you need to seriously reevaluate what you're doing in your business.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's so well put too. Making because food as a whole should be an inclusive thing, right? We need it
Right.
first of all
Yeah.
to live.
Everybody
And
has to eat.
yes. And like sure, maybe you don't need the finest things to live and those are
Mhm.
more luxury items, but varieties within those items should be
Mhm.
accessible to most people, if not all
Yes.
people for sure. We have a lot to work on in our society as a whole, and we
We
can't
do.
really get into all the systemic issues for this
Yeah. We
particular
could do a
podcast.
whole other series
Eh,
of podcasts on that.
yes, cheese and the people. Yeah, that's an excellent point, and it just
All
makes
cheese
it
is
so much
valid.
more approachable. Yeah.
Yeah. People come to me and they're like, "Oh, I bet you never eat American singles or something like that." And I'm like, "No, I have a pound of sliced Cooper Sharp in my fridge all the time. I love it like for sandwiches and eggs and stuff." And I don't believe in shaming people for the type of cheese that they choose to consume. Like I'm even if it's like a Kraft American single, I'm happy if you are eating cheese and you're enjoying it, because if you come to me and you're like, I've never heard of anything in this case. My favorite cheese is Baby Bell. I'm like, that's a great start. Do you like the texture? Do you like the flavor, or both? Let's find something that's similar. It's like every person who consumes any type of cheese is a great opportunity for me to provide a little bit of education and expand their worldview, expand their horizons.
I love how you approach it with such accessibility and judgment-free
Yeah.
zone. I think that's why too your content and your TikTok really resonates with so many people because of this approach and your style of educating. When did you think to start putting a lot of this content out there?
It was during the pandemic, it was 2020, like, maybe a few months into the lockdown. I was working, like, 80, 90 hours a week behind the cheese counter because the demand for food was so high. No one was going out to eat. No one was,
Right.
like, going to restaurants. Everyone was learning or relearning or, having to cook for themselves. So the demand for food was really, really, really high in the grocery store, but staff was at an all-time low because everyone had either quit out of fear of getting sick or was sick or had to take care of a sick family member. And so when I went home for my, 6 or 7 hours of time that I was at home every night, I was, like, scrolling through TikTok. TikTok obviously had boomed at that point. I decided, "Fuck it, I'm gonna make an account. Let's see what this is all about." And because at that point in my life, I had very bad work-life boundaries, I would go home and, like, see what cheese content was on the app, and at that time, there was very, very little, and the content that was on the app, I did not find satisfactory. It was either, like, wrong information or just, like, not interesting. So I decided to fill that niche. And so I started filming myself at the counter, and I started just by filming videos of me opening different wheels of cheese. Like, I think my first one was a parm wheel, actually, with, like, songs over it. And I didn't expect it to blow up. I expected maybe a couple people to care and, like, watch the videos, and it was just really just like a way for me to blow off steam. And then I had one video that went super viral, like 11 million views or something,
Oh,
and I noticed that a lot of the comments were people, like, asking questions about the cheese and, like, about the one in the video, but also about cheese in general. So I said, "Maybe I should start doing some voiceovers for this," and that really took off. What I was doing originally was just filming myself opening different wheels of cheese at the counter. I had, 200, 250 different ones at any given time, and just talking about it and introducing people to new styles, new producers, talking about the flavor, talking about how to pair them, and I think just, like, opening up this world of cheese to people who didn't even know that it existed.
and that's the timing too, right? Like
Yeah.
people were very obsessed. They always are, but they were very obsessed too during that time with like charcuterie boards and cheese
Oh,
boards, and they
yeah.
were having very much a moment.
Yeah.
And so I think that it was such a perfect time to also
Mhm.
utilize that as kind of your outlet too when you are exhausted from working a ton, but then you get to be able to have a little bit of creative fun and share your
Yeah.
knowledge and
Yeah.
interact with people. Did you get to feel like there was a new sense of community with just new
Yeah.
internet friends or just people in general
Yeah.
that because I
Yeah.
feel like interaction, personal interaction was very
Yeah.
limited then we know. So having that kind of outside influx of, you know, internet strangers become maybe friends must
Mhm.
have
Yeah.
been really interesting.
It definitely was, and other people started creating their own cheese content, and that was great, and I started commenting on their stuff, or we would tag team videos and stuff like that. We would have conversations about, like, the people who are just, like, being assholes in our comment sections and,
Oh,
just commiserating. Even now, people that as we get back into holding in-person events and more people feel more comfortable coming to the events, within the industry, I meet people and I'm like, "Hey, I know you from the internet. You're my internet friend." I don't know your actual name, but I know your TikTok handle. I know your shop from online, and so internet friends become real life friends, and then we become colleagues or we work together on projects, and that part of it was very cool to me to have created such a wide community through the internet.
it's just such a cool space, and so
Yeah.
it's great to see when everybody can make use of these things in such a positive and amazing light, because some people just use the internet for ridiculous things, but this is so great, the
A lot of
community
people.
building. I Most people, yes. The community building, the education, I find it so valuable. You are a Cheesemonger Invitational champion. You have to just tell me what it takes to become a champion and what that's all about.
Yeah, for sure. So the Cheesemonger Invitational is basically like the Olympics of cheesemongers in the
Oh,
United States. It
it's
was
great.
founded, I think, 10 or 11 years ago
Do they
by
have
Adam.
wheels of cheese instead of the rings for the
I
logo?
wish. I
Ah,
should tell them. I should
yeah.
tell them to
Tell
do
them to
that.
hire me to consult. I'll do it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it was founded like 10-ish years ago by a guy named Adam Moskowitz. He calls himself Mr. Moo. He is a good friend of mine, dear friend of mine, who is a huge advocate for elevating cheesemongers and appreciating them in the United States. And so what this is it's a competition, but it's more like he calls it a cheesemonger obstacle course, which I love that term. And so we take the best cheesemongers from all over the country, and for 1 week in one place, we give them 2 or 3 days of education, of cheese education. We have some of the world's best cheese producers come and give presentations about their cheese. They get to taste so many different kinds of cheese, sometimes like 100 different kinds of cheese over, I don't know, however many days of the competition. And so it's just like really unparalleled cheese education. It's my personal favorite part of the experience is you walk out of there having learned so much from some of the best people to learn from. Like the makers of the cheeses will come from Switzerland and talk about their product to you. It's incredible. And then to be able to tell them how much you appreciate their hard work is a really unique experience that a lot of people don't get. And so after you've done these education days, the competition day is Sunday. And so from like 9 a.m. until like 9 p.m., we have like 50 cheesemongers that they do a written test. They do an aroma test where they have to like blind sniff a vial of some sort of aroma and identify that. They do a blind taste test where we give them 5 or 6, I forget how many, PDO cheeses, so name protected cheeses on a plate. Out of all of the name protected cheeses in the entire world, we just give you a piece of cheese and then you have to taste it and identify what the milk type is. Is it raw or pasteurized? What style is it? What country does it come from? And then finally, if you can identify the cheese, you should identify the cheese. And a lot of people do really well at that, actually.
Ah, it sounds
Um,
so intense to me.
yeah, it's very, very intense, and then there are cutting and wrapping sessions or, challenges where, you will draw a cheese name out of a hat and then have to, like, pick a random cheese off of a table, and in 45 seconds or less, cut 2 perfect quarter pounds off of it. You get to weigh the piece of cheese once, you get 2 cuts, that's it, has to be perfect quarter pounds. Then you will have to perfectly wrap them in under 45 seconds. There
Yeah,
is a
is this
mock.
televised?
No, but it should be.
I would watch this.
Like, the public can come to the finals. The rest of the competition happens behind closed doors.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
mock salesmanship portion where, like, a judge will pretend to be a customer, and, they have 5 minutes of, back and forth with the monger pretending that they are in a cheese shop. We, like, set up fake cheese counters for them. It's really cool. And then there's the food service rounds, which is very much like Chopped. So
Oh,
in advance, they're assigned a cheese or, 1 cheese per challenge, and they have to come up with a perfect beverage pairing, a perfect plate where that one is they have to pick items that pair with the cheese, but also arrange a plate to be incredibly visually appealing as if it were something that you would order in a restaurant. And then there's the perfect bite, which you have to use that cheese to create a perfect bite and then do like 200 and something of them. So everyone who attends the event can taste them. And so from all of those challenges, they will pick 5 or 6 finalists who scored the highest overall. And then we put those finalists on the stage in front of 800 people and they do the final challenges, which is trivia, speed cut, speed rap. There's a that's rap like WRAP, like you're
wouldn't
rapping
the
cheese.
other one be just something?
But like for the monologue portion, they have a minute to talk about their favorite cheese, and some people have done a rap. Like
Oh, or like
yeah,
stand up or something. Does
yeah,
anybody break out into song? This is
yes,
I'm
yep,
in.
people
Will you let me
bring
know when the next one
guitars.
is? I wanna come to this.
Yes, it is every like summer, early fall in Brooklyn.
Ah, okay. Next
Yeah.
one, I am there.
And it's awesome because as you're watching all of this happen, you're also in a room where there are tables where you can just taste as many cheeses as you want. All of the producers who have given presentations to the mongers will then have a table at the event, and it's open to the public. It's all you can eat cheese. There's macaroni and cheese. There's like hot dogs with raclette on them, like fondue sometimes. So it's all you can eat cheese. And then I think all you can drink beer as well. And you get to watch the finalists compete on the stage to like earn the title of best cheesemonger in the country for that year. And it's really intense. It's really fun to watch.
I'm sold. I am
Yeah.
sold. I will be there. This,
Yeah.
oh my God, just everything. The entertainment aspect of it,
Mhm.
the endless cheese aspect of it. Are you down for a little rapid fire cheese pairing bodega edition?
Oh my God. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
I saw a video that you did where you did a cheese pairing with different chips, and I
Yes.
thought,
The
and I thought,
Frito-Lay collaboration.
and I thought, you know what? We could expand upon that and do a bodega snacks edition. So, without further ado, here we go. All right.
All right.
Salt and vinegar chips.
Some sort of an aged pecorino, something with like very briny vibe, like briny oceany vibes.
Ooh, okay,
Yeah.
fabulous. Hot fries.
Oh, hot fries, harbison. Like a really ripe harbison, you can like dip it, scoop it, and
Ooh.
like the fattiness of the cheese like balances out the spice.
Oh, love that. Plantain
Mhm.
chips.
Oh God, I just ate these yesterday. Oh
Oh,
my God,
okay.
what would I pair with these?
Craft singles. No, I'm just kidding.
Pass.
Okay.
They're great on their own.
I love that answer. Okay, and then in our last section, we're going sweet for a couple.
Okay.
Tate's cookies.
What flavor?
Oh, okay. We're going to go classic chocolate chip.
Classic chocolate chip. Delice de Bourgogne, any kind of a triple cream.
Okay, and last but not least, one of those little handheld cherry fruit pies.
There's a cheese called Castelbelbo from northern Italy. It's like a 3-milk robiola, cow, sheep, and goat. And I always really love to eat that particular cheese with like an Amarena cherry and syrup situation. So I'm gonna go with that.
So that is perfect. Chef's kiss. Nailed
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Amelia, how can people follow and support you? Plug away.
So my TikTok account is at Punk Rock Parmigiano. But yeah, cheese education videos on TikTok there. And then my Instagram handle is at Delbaro, so EMDALBERO. And there I mostly just like post my daily cheese adventures.
And people will be fully educated. I feel like I have learned so much here today, and you've provided so many resources. I will be front and center on the Cheese Olympics. So you can
Yeah.
expect to see this face there. Thank you so much for sharing your story and spending some time with me here
Yeah.
today.
No problem. Also, my answer for the plantain chips, I'm going to go with Stilton because I like the crunch and I like the salt. And I think that that would pair very well with like the fudginess with a little bit of a blue spice flavor from the Stilton. I
Incredible.
was thinking about it. I had to think about it.
We nailed it. It was like a buffering moment, and you got there.
I crush a bag of plantain chips like once a week. It's one of my favorite snacks. And I never thought to pair them. Oh, also I bet they would be really good dipped in labna.
I mean, you're not wrong. Okay,
Yeah.
so you
try that.
just entered the bonus round and you nailed
Bonus rounds. Yes. And now I have an idea for a snack later.
it. Amelia, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was great. You had some great questions. I feel like you really understand what I'm about, and I appreciate your interest in the topic.
Thanks for watching. You can find links and more info in the description below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. See you next time.